A massive controlled demolition drops an entire casino tower to the ground on the Atlantic City boardwalk in seconds. The lot sits empty today. Down the same boardwalk, a different casino that cost $2.4 billion never posted a single profitable quarter. Both were supposed to rescue the city. The same bet is being placed right now across 27 states. That $2.4 billion casino was called Revel. When it opened in 2012, Morgan Stanley alone had staked over $1 billion on it. It was supposed to be the rescue mission, the most expensive building Atlantic City had ever seen, designed to reverse years of decline with pure spectacle. 2 years later, it was dark. Not a single profitable quarter in between. When the building finally sold, somebody paid $82 million, 3 cents on the dollar. Morgan Stanley had already walked away years earlier, booking a $932 million loss. But Revel was not even the first casino to die on this boardwalk that year. The Atlantic Club shut down in January of 2014. Showboat, after 27 years on the boardwalk, went dark in August. Revel followed in September. Trump Plaza, a flagship since 1984, closed 2 weeks later. 4 casinos, 1 calendar year, 8,000 people told not to come back, and the bleeding was not done. The Trump Taj Mahal had been promoted as the 8th wonder of the world when it opened in 1990. It cost roughly $1 billion and filed for bankruptcy in its first year of operation. It staggered through 2 more decades, changed hands, was taken over by billionaire Carl Icahn, and finally closed for good in 2016 after failing to reach a deal to restore workers' health insurance and pensions. 5 casinos gone, 11,000 jobs erased from the same boardwalk, and then they brought Trump Plaza down in a controlled demolition while the crowd cheered. The lot has sat empty ever since. No developer has stepped forward. So how does a city that has hosted legal gambling for 48 years end up demolishing its own casinos? Especially when the city that inspired the whole idea just posted its 5th straight year of record revenue. Something about the original was never actually copied, because Atlantic City was never supposed to be the cautionary tale. It was supposed to be the proof of concept. By the mid-1970s, the city was dying. The grand seaside hotels that had made it America's playground since the 1800s were boarding up one by one. Convention halls sat half empty. The boardwalk was rotting. In 1964, the Democrats had held their national convention there. A decade later, you could walk blocks without passing an open storefront. A group called the Committee to Rebuild Atlantic City put a referendum on the New Jersey ballot, legalize casino gambling inside the city limits, and the tax revenue fixes everything. New roads, new housing, thousands of jobs, a second Las Vegas on the Jersey Shore. They had already tried once. In 1974, 60% of voters rejected it, so the committee came back with a tighter promise. Gambling restricted to Atlantic City alone, spent $1.3 million campaigning, and this time 56% said yes. 2 years later, on May 26, 1978, Resorts International opened the first legal casino outside Nevada. Lines stretched down the boardwalk, and for 29 consecutive years, without a single exception, Atlantic City's casino revenue grew. Every year, larger than the last. By 2006, 12 casinos on the boardwalk were generating $5.2 billion annually. That $5.2 billion was the most dangerous number Atlantic City ever produced. Not because it was wrong, because every struggling state capital in America heard it, and every one of them reached for a golden shovel. Mississippi legalized casino gambling in 1990, Indiana in 1993, Michigan approved it for Detroit, Connecticut allowed 2 massive tribal casinos. Pennsylvania pushed through a gambling expansion in 2004. The pitch was identical every time. A struggling community. A promise that gambling revenue would fund schools, fill potholes, and pull families above the poverty line. A groundbreaking ceremony with a governor who needed the tax line on next year's budget. By 2025, 493 commercial casinos operated across 27 states. But here is what nobody standing behind those podiums wanted to explain. A casino does not create money, it redirects it. Every dollar fed into a slot machine in Pennsylvania is a dollar that did not drive to Atlantic City. Every blackjack hand dealt in Detroit is a hand that did not fly to Las Vegas. Every roulette wheel spinning in Connecticut is spinning against every roulette wheel in New Jersey. Economists call it cannibalization. A study in the American Journal of Economics and Sociology found the casino industry shows no measurable impact on economic growth at the state level. The money does not multiply, it migrates. And Atlantic City, the city that started the whole experiment, was the first thing the experiment consumed. Revenue fell from that $5.2 billion peak every single year for a decade. Not a dip, not a market correction. A straight line, downward. By 2014, it had been slashed nearly in half to $2.7 billion. That is when 4 casinos went dark in a single year and 11,000 people lost their jobs on the same boardwalk. But Atlantic City at least had a name. It had the boardwalk, the history, decades of brand recognition. Some of the cities that copied the formula had nothing to fall back on at all. Tunica County, Mississippi was labeled the poorest county in America in the 1980s. Poverty rate, 56%. In 1983, a 60 Minutes crew drove 30 miles south of Memphis and filmed families living in shacks with no running water. Then Mississippi legalized gambling, and the transformation looked like a miracle. Casinos overhired. Unemployment dropped to 4% almost overnight. Money appeared where there had been no money. By the late 90s, Tunica had risen to the 3rd largest gambling destination in the United States, behind only Las Vegas and Atlantic City. A cotton county with nothing had become a resort. It looked like proof the golden shovel actually worked. Then casinos opened in Illinois, and Indiana, and Ohio, and Arkansas. Each one a little closer to the people who had been making the drive to Tunica. Revenue fell every year from 2012 through 2020. By 2025, one of Tunica's largest casinos had closed, leaving 5 still operating in a market that once rivaled the Jersey Shore. The poverty rate today hovers around 31%, lower than the 56% it was before the casinos, so defenders will call it progress. It is still more than double the national average. 3 decades of gambling, and more than 1 in 4 residents is poor. The same pattern repeated everywhere the model was copied. In Connecticut, Foxwoods and Mohegan Sun peaked at a combined $3.2 billion a year and have since been halved, bled dry by casinos in Pennsylvania, New York, and Massachusetts. In Reno, more than 20 casinos have closed in the past 2 decades. Virginia Street, once a canyon of neon, now has shuttered facades next to empty storefronts. Every copycat built the same thing. Every one of them watched it fail the same way. But one city kept posting records, and the reason why is the number that changes this entire story. In 2025, Nevada posted $15.8 billion in gaming revenue, a record, its 5th consecutive record year. The Las Vegas Strip alone pulled in $8.8 billion in gaming, even though visitor numbers were down 7.5% from the year before. Fewer people came. More money stayed. How? Because gaming is not even the main business on the Las Vegas Strip. Nearly 74% of Strip revenue comes from things that have nothing to do with a deck of cards or a slot machine. Hotels, restaurants, residency shows, nightclubs, UFC fights, a Formula One race. Convention centers booked years in advance. Total revenue for Strip resorts in 2025, $21.1 billion. Las Vegas did not survive because it built casinos. It survived because it constructed a city-sized entertainment engine and bolted casinos onto it. The shows give you a reason to come. The restaurants give you a reason to stay an extra night. The conventions let your company expense the whole trip. The desert gives you nowhere else to go. Atlantic City had a boardwalk and a beach. Tunica had cotton fields. Detroit had 3 casino buildings surrounded by parking lots and no reason for anyone to sleep over. Reno competed directly with tribal casinos that did not even need to turn a profit. Every copycat built slot machines in a box, high roller suites with a view of a highway off-ramp, a steakhouse, a buffet, a parking garage. They copied the revenue model and forgot that Las Vegas is not a revenue model. It is an experience people fly across the world to have. Nobody flies across the world to visit a casino next to a highway in Mississippi. None of them ever answered the question Las Vegas answered decades ago: why would someone choose to be here? You cannot photocopy a machine by building one of its parts, but the full cost of trying goes far beyond the lost revenue. 32.3% of Atlantic City residents lived below the poverty line in 2024. The New Jersey state average, 9.2%. 3.5 times higher in a city that has hosted legal gambling for 48 years. Within 15 years of the first casino opening, unemployment in Atlantic City was more than double the state average. As of 2026, it remains well above the state average. The casinos did not rebuild Atlantic City. They hollowed it out. Independent restaurants closed because the casinos had restaurants. Local hotels shut down because the casinos had rooms. The boardwalk economy collapsed inward into a handful of corporate towers that sent their profits to headquarters in Nevada and New York and private equity offices that had never set foot on the shore. When those towers went dark, nothing was underneath. No local economy left to catch the fall. No diversified business base to absorb 11,000 workers who suddenly had nowhere to clock in. The casinos had not added a new layer to Atlantic City's economy. They had replaced the old one entirely, and then they left. The committee to rebuild Atlantic City got their casinos. The rebuilding never arrived. And you would think that after 48 years, after 5 collapsed casinos and a 32% poverty rate, the lesson would finally be impossible to ignore. It is not. In 2025, New York State awarded 3 new downstate casino licenses. One near Citi Field in Queens, one adjacent to Aqueduct Racetrack, one in the Bronx. Each operator paying a $500 million licensing fee and pledging billions more in construction. The projections sound massive: $7 billion in gaming taxes, nearly $6 billion in hotel and retail taxes. Projections are always massive. Ask Morgan Stanley about projections. In Chicago, Bally's is building a $1.7 billion casino resort in River West. The hotel tower has already hit its full structural height. But as of August 2026, construction has paused on major parts of the complex because Bally's is fighting with the city over a problem that should sound familiar by now. Chicago allowed video gambling terminals to spread across bars and restaurants throughout the city, the exact kind of local competition that bled Atlantic City dry. The casino is not even open yet. The cannibalization has already started. And New York's 3 new casinos will draw from the same customer pool Atlantic City has depended on for nearly half a century. Atlantic City's revenue, already barely more than half its 2006 peak, is expected to fall further. One industry analyst has already asked publicly whether Atlantic City could see more casino closings when the New York halls open. That is not a rhetorical question. The cycle keeps going because every city that votes yes believes it will be the exception. That its location is different, that its operator is smarter, that the market runs deeper, that the golden shovel means something this time. 493 casinos across 27 states, $51 billion a year in combined gaming revenue. On paper, it reads like an industry that delivers, until you look at the ground it stands on. Not better schools in Tunica, not rebuilt sidewalks in Atlantic City, not a revived downtown in Reno, not a transformed Detroit. And the original, the place every golden shovel was trying to imitate, just posted its 5th straight year of records, $21 billion on the Strip. Because it was never about the casinos. What every struggling city in America tried to clone was never clonable. It was not a business model, it was a place. And that place was already taken. Right now, somewhere in America, another mayor is standing behind another podium, promising that one building will save an entire city. If Atlantic City's empty lot does not change their mind, subscribe. We keep following the money to see what it actually built.